The story starts with Vic Allen cycling home from a ride in the woods. When he arrives, he takes off his pants at the door. Inside, he finds his wife, Melinda, silently staring at him. Without saying a word, she goes into her room. Vic and Melinda live in Louisiana with their daughter Trixie. They need a babysitter for Trixie because they plan to attend a party at a friend's house. Later, Melinda asks Vic to help her choose a dress for the party. When Vic and Melinda arrive at the party, Melinda quickly leaves Vic's side to approach a young man named Joel, whom she calls her close friend. Without hesitation, Melinda and Joel head to the backyard to spend time together. Vic watches as his wife kisses Joel outside, and when he speaks to another friend, Mary, she expresses concern about Melinda's behavior. However, Vic dismisses her worries, insisting he isn't bothered. Melinda openly flirts with Joel in front of Vic and the other guests, even mocking Vic by calling him boring. As the night continues, Melinda takes to the piano and sings, receiving a warm response from the guests. Later, Joel approaches Vic to chat, thanking him for allowing his close relationship with Melinda. Vic begins telling a story about a man named Martin, who had dated Melinda and mysteriously disappeared a month earlier. Vic jokingly claims that he killed Martin with a hammer, which frightens Joel, although Vic quickly explains it was just a joke. However, Joel seems to take it seriously and leaves the party abruptly. After the party, Melinda questions Vic about what he said to Joel that caused him to leave so suddenly. Vic lies, claiming he said nothing. The next morning, while in the kitchen with Trixie, Melinda jokingly remarks that Trixie will become a bomb maker like her father. Trixie corrects her, saying Vic is a chip maker for military drones. Vic, feeling financially secure, had left his job to spend more time on his hobbies, like cycling and spending time with friends. After dropping Trixie off at school, Vic meets a friend who jokingly calls him a murderer because rumors of his conversation with Joel have spread. Later, when Vic is with his close friends, they suggest he control his wife instead of making threats. Melinda, who discovers the joke, becomes furious with Vic for joking about Martin's disappearance. The next day, Melinda invites Joel to dinner at their house, forcing Vic to apologize for his earlier words. Joel accepts the invitation, but the atmosphere during the meal is tense as Vic and Melinda exchange subtle barbs. Later, Vic approaches Joel, apologizing for the previous joke, but he continues the story about killing Martin with a hammer, making another threatening joke, and warning Joel to leave before he loses his temper. One day, Vic and his family attend a party where they meet a writer named Don Wilson, known for his conspiracy theory novels. During their conversation, Don develops a dislike for Vic upon learning about his past as a bomb maker. Don accuses Vic of killing Martin, unaware that it was just a joke. Everyone at the party knows Vic was trying to scare Joel. During the dance session, Vic surprises everyone by dancing with Kelly Wilson, Don's wife, as he is usually stiff and unsocial. On the way home, Vic mentions finding Kelly attractive and enjoying their conversation. Melinda becomes jealous, feeling like she's competing with Kelly for Vic's attention. To prove she's still the most attractive woman in his life, Melinda begins touching Vic intimately, exciting him. After proving her point, Melinda declares that she would rather die than hear Vic praise Kelly. Despite their apparent anger, they continue their intimacy in the bedroom. The next day, Vic finds Melinda at Trixie's soccer game. Soon after, he receives a call from the bank saying Melinda sent $33,000 to someone named Charles for piano lessons. He rushes to his office to investigate Charles and then heads to a restaurant where Charles works. To his surprise, Melinda is there, seemingly interested in Charles. Vic begins to suspect that Charles might be Melinda's new boyfriend. When Vic returns home, he is shocked to find their wedding ring in the sink, which Melinda has removed. Later, he sees a news report about Martin's death from a headwind. Vic shares the news with Melinda, who is still drunk from her dinner with Charles. She is shocked by the news. The next morning, Vic surprises Trixie with a new dog to adopt. On his way home, Vic sees Charles holding flowers, likely for Melinda. When he arrives home, he finds the flowers on the table and angrily throws them in the trash. Later, Vic meets a friend at the restaurant where Charles works and tells him everything about his situation. He admits he is still holding on to his marriage with Melinda, despite the pain. While in his garden, Vic imagines Melinda and Charles making out in a car, with no regard for his feelings. The next day, Vic waits anxiously at home as Melinda stays out all night. He leaves Trixie with a friend, thinking he might get angry when Melinda returns. When Melinda finally arrives, Vic demands to know where she has been and about the money sent to Charles. His patience running out, Vic angrily confronts Melinda, demanding she end the affair, but she seems to ignore his words. Vic and Melinda attend another party where Charles is present. Melinda introduces Charles to the guests and asks him to play the piano. Charles impresses everyone with his piano skills, making the party lively. However, Vic remains visibly upset, watching Melinda closely as she gets closer to Charles. Later, Vic searches for Melinda and is told she is upstairs. When he arrives, he sees Melinda leaving a room with Charles and they head to the pool. Suddenly, heavy rain forces everyone out of the pool except Vic and Charles. After everyone leaves, Vic approaches Charles with hatred in his eyes and, in a sudden rage, kills him. Despite the shocking act, Vic returns to the party as if nothing happened and Charles's body floats in the pool unnoticed. Later, Melinda starts searching for Charles but can't find him. Finally, she checks the pool and screams in horror when she sees his unconscious body floating. Everyone rushes to help, including Vic. They lift Charles's body from the pool, but a tragic accident occurs when his body slips and his head hits the pool's edge, causing instant death. The police arrive and begin investigating the case. In the chaos, Melinda accuses Vic of killing Charles, but others disagree, believing Charles died from the poolside injury. Dawn, however, suspects Charles might have died in the pool. After a long argument and with no proof, the police rule Charles's death an accident and the case is closed. Vic and Melinda return home and their routine continues. Vic suggests they consider splitting up, but Melinda assures him she doesn't want a divorce and isn't afraid, believing he did it for her. A few days later, Vic returns to his daily routine, including cycling, but starts noticing someone watching him. One day, after dropping Trixie off at school, Vic sees Kelly, who tells him Dawn suspects him of killing Charles. Dawn has even invited Melinda over to discuss the matter. Vic decides to invite Kelly and Dawn to dinner, intending to speak with Dawn privately. During the dinner, Vic tells Dawn to stop spreading rumors, but Dawn still suspects Vic is the killer and even mentions Martin's death. Despite his fear, Dawn stands by his beliefs. The next day, after dropping Trixie off, Vic notices a car following him. At a restaurant, he is surprised to find a camera in the car, confirming his suspicions. Inside the restaurant, Vic is shocked to see Melinda with a man who turns out to be the car's owner, David, a psychologist planning to open a practice in the city. Despite David's explanation, Vic remains suspicious, believing David is a private investigator hired by Dawn and Melinda. After leaving the restaurant, Vic heads to Dawn's house with proof of Melinda's money transfer to Dawn's account. When he arrives, he firmly confronts Dawn, accusing him of meddling in his personal life, leaving Kelly embarrassed and furious. Later, Vic sees Melinda with her new boyfriend again and decides to follow them secretly. That night, while bathing Trixie, she innocently asks about Charles's death. Trixie casually mentions that she knows her father killed Charles. Shocked, Vic tells Trixie to keep it a secret. The next day, Vic invites Melinda's new boyfriend to their house, only to discover he is Melinda's ex-boyfriend Tony. Melinda's behavior worsens, and she boldly tells Vic that Tony was the first American guy she slept with. To make matters worse, they repeat their intimate act in front of Vic, showing no remorse. One day, Vic finds Tony walking confidently and lies to him, saying Melinda is waiting at a house they're considering buying. Tony believes him and joins Vic, but Vic drives him to a remote forest near a river. Vic drives Tony to a secluded area in the forest near a steep drop. Once there, Vic throws a rock at Tony, hitting him in the head. He then picks up a larger rock and throws it, causing Tony to fall into the ravine and hit his head on a large rock, killing him instantly. Vic drags Tony's body to the riverbank, takes his wallet, and then ties a large rock to Tony's body, before drowning it in the river. Afterward, Vic returns home as if nothing happened, even sharing a toast with his daughter. The next day, Vic takes his family on a picnic to the same place where he killed Tony. He gives Melinda a gift. An album of old photos, with a note expressing his love for her on the last page. This gesture improves their relationship slightly. While searching for Trixie by the riverbank, Vic sees Tony's body floating to the surface. He quickly takes his family home, but Melinda leaves her favorite scarf behind and wants to retrieve it. Vic promises to go alone and later rushes back to the woods to check on Tony's body. Meanwhile, Melinda finds Tony's wallet in Vic's nail pet room, which makes her suspect that Vic may have killed Tony. She calls Dawn, informing him of her discovery and mentioning that Vic is heading to the forest. As Vic struggles to hide Tony's body, Dawn arrives with Melinda's scarf, which he found near the river. Dawn becomes suspicious of Vic as he tries to conceal the body. Seeing Tony's hand floating in the water, Dawn becomes terrified and runs to his car to call the police. However, his phone slips from his hand. Vic, realizing that his crime is about to be exposed, begins to chase Dawn. After a long pursuit, Vic manages to block Dawn's path using a shortcut. Dawn loses control of his car and crashes into a cliff, resulting in his death. After these horrific events, Vic returns to his routine of cycling. When he arrives home, Melinda greets him with a smile but says nothing. Inside the house, Melinda burns Tony's wallet and ID, and the story ends with silence. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe.